The 1970s were packed with bold ideas, experimental engines, new technologies, and tractors that aimed to change farming forever. Some of them were genius, innovative, powerful, and decades ahead of their time. And yet, despite all that brilliance, these machines crashed, flopped, and disappeared. From misunderstood engineering to designs the market wasn't ready for. These tractors had the potential to be legends, but instead they became cautionary tales. Get ready for the 10 tractors from the 1970s that were brilliant but failed miserably. The stories of great ideas with tragic endings. Number 1. International Harvester 2+2 Snoopy Series. When International Harvester unveiled the 2+2 Snoopy tractors in 1979, the farming world stared in disbelief. Nothing about these tractors looked normal. The long hood, the forward-mounted cab, the oddly positioned articulation joint, it looked more like a stretched-out experimental prototype than a production tractor meant for everyday farming. Yet underneath this strange appearance was one of the most innovative concepts the tractor industry had ever seen. The idea behind the 2+2 was simple but brilliant. Combine the fuel efficiency and maintenance simplicity of a 2WD tractor with the traction and pulling power of a 4WD articulated machine. IH engineers designed a unique front-engine, rear-frame articulation system, which allowed the front wheels to pull the tractor rather than push it, a major advantage in fieldwork. The concept worked extremely well during testing. The 2+2 had outstanding traction, great visibility from the cab, and weight distribution that made heavy tillage surprisingly efficient. The elongated design placed more weight on the front axle, giving it constant grip even in tough soil conditions. Articulation allowed sharp turning angles, making it more maneuverable than other tractors in its class. For farmers who understood the engineering, the 2+2 was a genius breakthrough. But unfortunately, most farmers didn't understand it, and many didn't even want to. The machine's unusual shape earned it the nickname Snoopy, and the tractor quickly became a victim of its own design. Farmers worried about long-term reliability, parts compatibility, and servicing difficulties caused by the front-heavy layout. Early models also suffered from drivetrain issues, especially under constant heavy loads. IH's marketing struggled to explain why the tractor looked the way it did, and customers simply weren't willing to gamble on something that seemed too experimental. In truth, the tractor wasn't bad. It was ahead of its time in every way. Many of the concepts IH introduced in the 2+2 later became common in modern high-HP 4WD machines. But back in the late 1970s, farmers wanted familiarity, not innovation. The 2+2 remains a perfect example of a brilliant machine that failed because the world simply wasn't ready for it. Number 2. John Deere 4030, 1973 to 1977. The John Deere 4030 entered the market with high expectations. Deere was dominating the agricultural world, and farmers trusted the brand for consistent reliability and strong horsepower. The 4030 was designed to fit between the lower-powered 3020 and the more capable 4230, offering a balance of mid-sized power, a comfortable cab, and the advanced features farmers expected from Deere. On paper, it seemed like the perfect fit, a tractor that bridged the gap between two customer groups. But the real-world response was far from what Deere hoped for. The heart of the problem was its Dubuque-built 6.6L engine, which was supposed to deliver excellent fuel economy and enough torque to satisfy mid-sized farmers. Instead, the engine consistently underperformed in field tests. The tractor was too heavy for its horsepower output and struggled under load, especially when pulling larger implements for tillage or field cultivation. Many farmers complained that the 4030 worked like a tractor half its size and felt sluggish in situations where its competitors performed confidently. Another major flaw was its price positioning. For only a little more money, farmers could buy the 4230, which offered significantly more horsepower, better hydraulics, and greater overall capability. This small pricing gap made the 4030 seem unnecessary. Most buyers skipped it entirely and went straight for the more powerful model. That alone severely damaged the 4030's sales outlook. Operators also complained that the 4030 lacked the smoothness and refinement found in other Deere models of the time. While not unreliable, it didn't deliver the strong performance Deere owners expected. As a result, the tractor developed a reputation as a budget compromise that wasn't actually cheap. Despite good build quality, the 4030 ultimately failed because it didn't fulfill a meaningful role in the lineup. It wasn't powerful enough to compete with bigger tractors, and it wasn't affordable enough to appeal to small farmers. Its engineering wasn't bad, the market placement was. The 4030 stands today as a reminder that even the strongest brands can stumble when they create a machine that fills no real need. Number 3. Ford 9700, 1975 to 1979. During the mid-1970s, Ford wanted to push into the higher horsepower category, dominated by Deere and IH. Their answer was the Ford 9700, a modern-looking tractor with a turbocharged engine, advanced features and strong pulling power. On paper, it was exactly what Ford needed, a big, confident machine capable of handling heavy farm operations. The tractor came equipped with Ford's new dual-power transmission, which allowed on-the-go shifting between high and low ranges. For the time, it was a cutting-edge feature that promised improved efficiency and versatility. The idea was smart, but the execution was flawed. The dual-power system turned out to be one of the most unreliable transmission designs Ford ever built. Under heavy loads, especially during extended field work, the transmission often slipped, overheated, or failed completely. Repairing the unit was time-consuming and expensive, and many farmers simply lost confidence in the tractor. Because transmissions are the heart of a tractor's reliability, the 9700's failure in this area doomed its reputation. The engine, while powerful, suffered from durability problems. Turbocharging was still relatively new for many tractor manufacturers, and Ford hadn't perfected long-term heat dissipation. The 9700 was prone to overheating, cracked manifolds, and premature engine wear when pushed hard. Hydraulics also showed inconsistency, particularly with larger implements requiring strong flow. Fuel consumption added another problem. Farmers expected a turbocharged machine to be more efficient, but the 9700 was notoriously thirsty. In a decade defined by rising fuel prices, this became a major drawback. The saddest part of the 9700 story is that it could have been a great tractor. It had excellent comfort, impressive horsepower, and several forward-thinking features, but reliability issues quickly overshadowed everything else. Today, the Ford 9700 is remembered as a bold machine with impressive potential, a tractor that looked like a winner but failed because its engineering wasn't ready for real-world stress. Number 4. Allis-Chalmers, 210 1970 to 1973. The Allis-Chalmers 210 was one of the most promising high-horsepower tractors of the early 1970s. With its striking design, strong turbocharged engine, and competitive price, it attracted immediate attention from farmers looking to upgrade their horsepower without breaking the bank. AC marketed the 210 as a powerful workhorse capable of handling heavy tillage and large implements, and at first glance, the tractor delivered exactly that. Its engine was robust, efficient, and capable of producing serious torque. But beneath the hood lay the tractor's fatal flaw. AC engineers built the tractor too light for the massive power it generated. The transmission and rear end weren't strong enough to endure constant heavy loads, especially on large farms where the 210 was pushed to its limits day after day. Failures in the final drive, differential, and internal gears became common complaints. Even farmers who loved the engine found themselves constantly dealing with drivetrain repairs, something that quickly soured its reputation. Adding to the problem was timing. The early 1970s saw dramatic changes in farming economics, and many farmers were financially cautious. Word spread quickly that the 210 had structural weaknesses, and potential buyers backed away. Even though later improvements made the tractor more reliable, the damage to customer trust was already done. The tractor also lacked the durability and refinement of competing models from Deere and IH. While the Allis-Chalmers engine remained a strong point, farmers simply couldn't justify a tractor that could outpull competitors but couldn't survive the workload. Today, the AC 210 is seen as a fascinating what-could-have-been machine. Collectors admire it for its power, styling, and place in AC history. But its real-world performance ultimately failed to live up to its promise. It's a perfect example of how one weak component can destroy an otherwise brilliant machine. Number 5. Massey Ferguson, 1130. Early 70s sales peak. The Massey Ferguson 1130 entered the 1970s with impressive credentials. It was powerful, comfortable, and designed to compete directly with large American row crop tractors. The heart of the 1130 was a strong Perkins 354 engine, known for smooth power delivery and good torque characteristics. Farmers were excited. Finally, a big MF tractor that could compete with the giants. But the excitement didn't last long. One of the biggest issues with the 1130 was its torque amplifier system. This component was prone to premature failure, especially under heavy pulling conditions. When the TA failed, the tractor either lost part of its gear range or became difficult to operate efficiently, requiring expensive repairs. Unfortunately, many farmers experienced repeated TA failures, turning the 1130 into an expensive headache rather than a dependable workhorse. Hydraulics were another problem. The pump struggled during long working hours, especially with high-demand implements. Hydraulic pressure would drop, causing slow response, weak lifting force, and operational frustration. The electrical system also added to the chaos, with wiring problems and shorts that often left operators stranded. These reliability issues overshadowed what was otherwise an excellent tractor. The MF 1130 had great power, a comfortable operator platform, and smooth operation in ideal conditions. But farming is rarely ideal. When pushed the way real farmers push their machines, the 1130 simply couldn't hold up. This inconsistency destroyed its reputation. Many farmers who tried the 1130 once never returned to MF for large tractors again. The company improved later models, but the early damage was irreversible. Today, the MF 1130 is loved by restorers and collectors because of its looks, heritage, and engine performance. But historically, it stands as one of the clearest examples of a brilliant tractor that ultimately failed due to mechanical vulnerabilities that farmers just couldn't ignore. Number 6. Oliver 2255, 1972 to 1976. The Oliver 255 is one of the most iconic and visually intimidating tractors of the 1970s. With its aggressive stance, muscular body, and the thunderous growl of a Caterpillar 3208 V8 diesel engine, it looked like the future of high-horsepower farming. And in many ways it was. At a time when most manufacturers were sticking with inline six-cylinder engines, Oliver took a bold leap by installing a full V8, something farmers had rarely seen in a field tractor. The idea was simple: offer unmatched power, steady torque, and a machine that could pull the biggest implements with ease. On paper, it seemed like a revolutionary step forward. In practice, however, the 255 became a classic case of too much too soon. The 3258 engine, although powerful, wasn't designed for the extreme, continuous strain of deep tillage and heavy agricultural work. It was originally developed for trucks and stationary power units, not tractors that spent hours plowing under load at slow speeds. The engine's non-sleeved block was one of the most problematic design elements. Unlike sleeved engines, which allow for easy rebuilding, the 3258 required expensive machining and specialized work whenever major wear occurred. When the engine began experiencing early wear, and many did, rebuilding costs skyrocketed. Heat management was another fatal flaw. The 3208 produced significant heat under heavy workloads, especially in hot climates or during long tillage days. The Oliver cooling system struggled to keep up, leading to overheating issues, cracked heads, and reduced engine life. Combined with high fuel consumption and occasional problems with the tractor's driveline under extreme torque, the 255's reputation suffered heavily. But despite its commercial failure, the 255 has become a legendary collector's tractor. Enthusiasts admire its unmatched sound, bold engineering, and historical uniqueness. It failed in the marketplace, yes, but as a piece of agricultural history, it remains unforgettable. The Oliver 255 stands today as proof that innovation can be brilliant and flawed at the same time. Number 7. Case 1070, 1978. When Case launched the 1070 in the early 1970s, it was clear that the company intended to modernize its tractor lineup. The tractor featured futuristic styling, a clean and comfortable operator platform, and the strong 451 cubic inch diesel engine, which was capable of producing impressive power. It looked modern, felt ahead of its time, and seemed like the tractor that would push Case deeper into the competitive high-horsepower market, dominated by Deere and International Harvester. Unfortunately, engineering brilliance could not compensate for production issues, inconsistent reliability, and some design weaknesses that farmers quickly discovered in real-world use. The most notorious issue with the 1070 was the powertrain durability. The tractor's transmission struggled with high-load situations, especially during deep tillage or heavy pulling. Gear failures and clutch issues were not uncommon, and farmers found themselves repairing components far too often for a machine in this power class. Another pain point was the rear three-point hitch system, which many farmers considered weaker than comparable models. Under sustained heavy lifting, wear developed quickly in the linkage parts, reducing stability and precision. Some tractors also suffered from frame stress points, particularly around the cab and engine mounting regions. Operators also reported engine failures caused by oil flow issues, especially when the machine was worked hard for long hours in hotter climates. Case enthusiasts argue, and correctly, that many of these issues were fixable, and the later 70 series tractors became far more reliable. But the 1070 was released at a time when Case was already struggling with internal management issues and financial pressure, which meant improvements came too late for many farmers. The 1070 was a tractor full of potential that never reached maturity. Today, collectors appreciate its unique styling and powerful presence, but farmers who lived through the 1970s remember it as a machine that promised much yet delivered too little. It remains one of the clearest examples of a brilliant design undermined by poor execution. Number 8. White 4 150 Planesman, 1975 to 1977. The White 4 150 Planesman remains one of the most unconventional and daring tractor designs of the 1970s. This machine looked radically different from anything else on the market, with a front-mounted engine, an articulated frame, and a strikingly futuristic cab. White was attempting to solve the traction challenges of two-wheel drive tractors and the bulkiness of traditional 4WD machines by creating a hybrid layout that combined the best of both. The Planesman offered excellent visibility, strong pulling power for its weight class, and maneuverability that traditional 4WD tractors couldn't match. Unfortunately, innovation came with serious consequences. The biggest flaw of the 4 150 was the extreme vibration caused by the front-mounted engine. Instead of having the drivetrain isolated behind the operator, White placed the entire power unit directly in front of the cab, transmitting noise and vibration straight into the operator's seat. Many farmers found the tractor uncomfortable during long working hours, and fatigue became a serious issue. Structural weaknesses were another downfall. The articulation joint, the driveline components, and even the frame itself suffered wear and failure under intense workloads. The placement of the engine also caused uneven stress distribution, leading to fatigue cracks and breakdowns that were costly to repair. The combination of discomfort, durability issues, and skepticism toward such an unusual design meant the Planesman never achieved mainstream success. Most farmers simply didn't want to risk buying a tractor that looked like an experiment. Yet ironically, decades later, the White 4 150 has become a highly collectible model. Collectors appreciate its futuristic styling, engineering boldness, and historical significance. It was a tractor that dared to be different and failed because it was simply too different. Number 9. Fiat 1300 Super, 1970 to 1976. The Fiat 1300 Super was one of Europe's most ambitious and powerful tractors of the 1970s, boasting over 135 horsepower. A strong six-cylinder diesel engine and sleek European styling, the 1300 Super was engineered to compete with the biggest tractors from John Deere, Massey Ferguson, and International Harvester. Its engine was robust, fuel-efficient, and capable of impressive pulling power. In theory, the Fiat 1300 Super should have become a major player in the global tractor market. But while the engine was exceptional, the rest of the tractor wasn't built to handle the stress that came with such high horsepower. The gearbox was especially fragile. Many users reported grinding gears, premature wear, and full transmission failures after just a few years of heavy use. Hydraulics were also a major weakness. The pump struggled to maintain stable pressure, especially during long working cycles. For a tractor in this horsepower range, that was unacceptable. Another significant issue was the steering system, which wore out quickly under load, especially when using heavy front-mounted implements. Farmers needed strong and reliable steering for precise work, and the Fiat system developed play and looseness far too early. But perhaps the biggest reason for the Fiat 1300 Super's failure was lack of global support. Outside Italy and parts of Europe, dealers were scarce, parts took too long to arrive, and mechanics were not familiar with Fiat's design. Farmers simply couldn't afford the downtime. Despite its flaws, the Fiat 1300 Super has gained admiration among collectors for its rare combination of European design and raw engine power. But its real-world performance during the 1970s left too many farmers disappointed, turning it into another brilliant but commercially unsuccessful tractor. Number 10. Belarus MTZ-80, introduced 1974. The Belarus MTZ-80 is one of the most fascinating tractors in global agricultural history. It was cheap, powerful for its size, and packed with features that Western tractors wouldn't offer until many years later. The MTZ-80 came with 4 WD capabilities, great low-end torque, extremely simple mechanical systems, and a rugged construction that made it ideal for harsh environments. In Eastern Europe and Soviet territories, it became one of the most widely used tractors of all time. But in Western markets, the MTZ-80 failed miserably. The tractor suffered from a strange identity problem. It was both ahead of its time and poorly finished. Mechanically, it was brilliant, simple, durable, easy to repair, and able to run on low-quality fuel. But the ergonomics, build quality, and overall refinement were far behind Western brands. The MTZ-80 was noisy, rough, and uncomfortable. The transmission was clunky, the gear shifts were stiff, and the cab vibrated heavily at higher RPMs. Quality control was wildly inconsistent. Some tractors performed flawlessly for years, while others suffered multiple small failures early in their life. The electrical system, in particular, was notoriously unreliable. Rust protection was poor, paint quality was inconsistent, and many Western farmers felt the tractor looked outdated the moment it arrived. Dealer and parts support made things even worse. Since Belarus had limited distribution networks in Western Europe and North America, spare parts were hard to obtain. Delays could stretch for weeks, making the tractor impractical for anyone who depended on uptime. Despite all this, the MTZ-80 is still respected for what it was designed to be, a simple, rugged work machine for low-income farmers. But in the 1970s Western market, where expectations for refinement and reliability were high, it stood no chance. It remains one of the most misunderstood tractors of its time. Brilliant in concept, but commercially unsuccessful. These tractors had everything: creativity, power, and engineering that should have changed the industry. But timing, cost, and competition put an end to their dreams. Which one do you think deserved a second chance? Let me know in the comments below. If you love lost machines, forgotten innovations, and stories from farming's golden decades, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more incredible tractor history. Thanks for watching, and remember, even the biggest failures can be the most brilliant stories.